HBO Max just made a huge mistake. A lot of the classic Cartoon Network shows are just gone this week, and this is coming a week after South Park has left the service. These are classic shows for 2000s and 90s kids like Courage the Cowardly Dog, Teen Titans, Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd n Eddy. If this isn't dropping the ball, I don't know what is. But why? Who cares? I cares enough to do all this. Okay, so from Collider, today is a sad day for 90s kids, as from this day forward, accessing the Cartoon Network shows has become harder than ever. Following the removal of Courage the Cowardly Dog from HBO Max's library, there are no longer any classic Cartoon Network shows on the streaming platform, making it harder to access programs that were popular in the late 90s and early 2000s. This comes as streaming platforms continue to pull shows left and right during the past few months, and fans can only wait and anticipate if these titles will find new streaming homes. According to a news source, only 11 Cartoon Network shows remain on the HBO Max library, but its oldest show is Adventure Time. The removal of Courage the Cowardly Dog and other Cartoon Network shows was due to Warner Brothers shifting away from kids programming and wanting to cater to adult and family titles. I've noticed some of these shows slowly disappearing over time. I first noticed it with Billy and Mandy a few months ago when I wanted to show my girlfriend. We both liked Courage the Cowardly Dog, and it was a show I thought had the closest vibe to it. Around that time, I noticed Powerpuff Girls was gone too, something I'd watched over the previous year with my family. You know, like a few times after a pool day or a dinner for old time's sake. A lot of this is being blamed on a decoupling, restructuring. Warner Brothers and Discovery are sleeping in separate bedrooms right now, but that's not quite it, but it's not making things any easier. Now hold on, this gets confusing. So Warner Brothers and Discovery, which honestly is the most bonkers mergers ever. Why? Just why? They are, from what I understand, remaining the same company, but splitting into two, with Cartoon Network Studios remaining on the Warner side, which includes studios and streaming, and the other side, the channel of Cartoon Network, being on the Discovery side, but that content will remain on the Warner side. Honestly, this wades into a whole different conversation about media preservation and mergers in general. This is what they mean when they say you will own nothing and be happy. I hate this. It's more complicated for no reason. Essentially, there's no reason not to keep these shows on there. They essentially own the rights to these shows. To the best of my knowledge, they just aren't showing them. Now, I get it. It costs money to have content on servers, and I can't speak for everybody on how popular these shows are in comparison to other ones, but it can't have costed much. It can't have costed as much as airing them on linear TV or producing a brand new show. If Pluto TV and Tubi can air shows that literally no one cares about with ads on them and somehow still be profitable, I do not see the issue. And also, look at how their rivals in the space handle legacy content. Disney Plus has almost every piece of Disney TV content, trash or not, somewhere on their service. If some cringe TV movie aired sometime in like 1999 on a random Thursday, chances are it's on there somewhere. My girlfriend is going to want me to mention they do not have everything. The Wonderful World of Disney stuff is mostly not on there, and she wanted me to bring up the fact that Toothless is not available for streaming or digital purchase. Paramount Plus has most of its Nickelodeon content on there, with some of it being on Netflix as well. Some of these shows are available on places like Hulu, which, okay, Warner makes more money licensing them to Disney, but like, if I'm not mistaken, at this point, a service owned by Disney has more classic Warner content than Warner's own flagship streaming service. And it still strays away from the classic of the 90s and the 2000s. You get later 2000s, 2010 stuff, which is fine, but it doesn't hit the same. But wait, a lot of these shows are on Boomerang. Just pay for Boomerang. Bruh, no one's paying for Boomerang. Oh wait, you can't. They shut Boomerang down and integrated its content into HBO Max, where they just flushed it down the toilet. What is happening? And even if it did still exist, if you wanted these shows to succeed and keep eyes on them, they have to all be in one place. That's why so many shows had a second or third life on places like Netflix. The Office being on Netflix is probably the reason it remained in the public lexicon long after its initial airing ended in 2013. I still hear people confuse The Office as a Netflix show, which I'm sure makes NBC Peacock very happy. Same with Avatar: The Last Airbender. That was one of my favorite second lives because that show certainly did not get the credit it deserved, in my opinion, when it initially aired. It's probably the reason Netflix created their own Avatar thing, which you don't have to waste your time with. Also, even the Netflix factor, one place for everything, there was a time when Warner owned at least 3 streaming services going on at the same time. You don't see that as a problem? What are we doing? Streaming was supposed to make everything easier. Now you have to Google if your show is even available on any service, or if it's even purchasable at all. Like, a lot of these older shows just get lost to time. Seriously, before HBO Max, many of these Cartoon Network shows, unless you wanted to sail the seven seas in variable quality, which I do not condone, had no release at all. If you were lucky, some of them had iTunes Store releases, which could be expensive. If you were really lucky, your show had a DVD release, but some of them got none of these. And some of those DVD sets, depending on what you were looking for and how long that run was for, can get a little pricey. And that's assuming the DVD is new and not covered in kid boogers or something worse. And I think this all goes back to how these companies look at their shows, their backlog, their content in general. Disposable. That show you loved to watch with your family when you were a kid, trash it. That show you bonded over with your girlfriend years and years ago and you wondered about last week, trash it. It's gone. It's not anywhere. It was, but it isn't now. Will the next generation get curious about what their older siblings are talking about? Yeah, screw that. Watch some soft around the edges show we put way too much money into that just looks like garbage. Warner Brothers is still investing in animated content. Some projects were listed in the article we were reading from, but I don't know. These aren't the classics to me, and I have no attachment to them. Warner, HBO, Discovery, like even talking about this company is just confusing. They also have no problem doing stuff like this. They famously killed a Batgirl movie that was essentially finished as a tax write-off, and that was like a movie. You think they care about your childhood memories? I know this was a rant video. I'm not even sure what the point of this really was, but I just had to express this. A lot of these shows never really had a streaming home before, and it was really cool to have them all in one place, along with a bunch of other content that I was interested in. Having the majority of the Cartoon Network catalog in one place was a huge selling point for me, and I think it was for others too, even if it wasn't as many of us as HBO would have wanted. I personally loved leaving these shows on in the background in like summer. Such a nostalgic experience, especially shows like Courage, Ed, Edd n Eddy, Billy and Mandy, Teen Titans. And some of these shows could really be primed for the youth of today, and I think would do really well if they just had access to them. But the target demo for these shows just isn't getting a non-existent Boomerang sub. That wasn't ever how these shows were going to be enjoyed. It's going to be when it's summertime and the parents go to work, so they put on the kids section of HBO Max because they can't let them stumble into Game of Thrones or Westworld. Wait a minute, HBO doesn't even have Westworld on it anymore? That's an HBO show. What is happening? And they see this fun-looking show with a cute pink dog that isn't afraid to get a little spooky. Or these girl superheroes that isn't afraid to get a little bloody. Or the last hand-drawn animated show about a summer that seemingly never ended. That fun era of shows where boundaries were nudged but not too far, where shows weren't afraid to be scary or disturbing or gross or have children think about slightly more complicated plot lines, or jokes the parents would get as well and even have a laugh and share with their kids, or maybe something you could share with kids of your own, or maybe your future kids. But no, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.